Namaste and welcome. It is Rishi here from meditatewithrishi.com, and in today's video we are speaking about 3 signs of spiritual progress, 3 signs of success on the spiritual path. Okay, so obviously this video is for you if you are on the spiritual path and you are wondering that, I've been doing practice. Is it working? Is it actually having any impact? And a lot of a lot of people get trapped in things like, has my Kundalini awakened, or are my chakras balanced? So that's actually not necessary, okay? Because there is no graph that can tell you that, okay? Anybody that claims to be able to tell you that. It's probably a sham, okay? But there are outward signs of progress on the spiritual path which are very clear and which guarantee that if these are appearing, you are progressing on the path. And these have been laid out by Lord Krishna himself, okay? So let's get into it. Now, before I do that, I just want to mention that if you are new to this channel, I've got a gift for you, okay? So for my coaching clients, I've created something really cool called a peace cheat sheet, called the 11 yogic rules for daily peace, okay? So these are 11 rules, 11 ways of approaching your day that if you apply even some of them, you will instantly increase the amount of peace that you feel every single day. Okay, so if you want that, you can grab it at meditatewithrishi.com/cheat sheet. I will link it in the description box below. Okay, all right, so let's get into it. What are these 3 signs? Number 1, a true yogi is one who has got complete control over his senses. Complete control over his or her senses. Okay, so what does this mean? We all have 5 senses, right? You can hear my lisp there. We all have 5 senses. And the way that we live right now, we live in a generation that is the most comfortable generation because of all the innovation in the past couple of centuries, that it is so easy to please your senses, whether it is food, alcohol, drugs, entertainment, whatever you're looking for, it is just available. It is so readily and quickly available, right? So actually, in a way, it is one of the hardest times to, to live a very clean life because there is so much temptation all around, right? But if you notice, even today, there are people living, true masters, true practitioners, who the way that they live is completely clean. Right? Completely clean. They probably eat 1 or 2 meals a day. They have no bad habits. They are completely in control of what they want to do ultimately, right? And this is possible. This is possible for everyone. And the more that you progress in the spiritual path, the easier this will be, okay? So one who has complete control of his senses is somebody who is a true yogi. Now, what you want to look at is you don't want to compare yourself to somebody else because we all start from a different starting point, right? You want to look at yourself and see that, okay, I've been doing some practice. Are some things less appealing to me? Are some things less appealing to me? So, for me, if I share my story, again, I've said this time and time again, that it is meditation that helped me to essentially completely quit drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, all these things, right? And this is why I don't take credit for doing that, because I didn't do that from my own strength or my own willpower. It is just focusing on the practice. Focusing on the practice made all of that melt away, right? So, the way that people who do not have a spiritual practice go about it is by trying to use just their willpower, okay? So it's like, I'm not going to do this from now, and it's everything is willpower. Everything is willpower, right? And this makes it more difficult. I'm not saying that willpower is not important. Even for me, like I had to say that, okay, I'm at a point now where from now I'm not doing this, okay? But it's coming from a different place. It's coming from a different place, okay? Naturally, the temptation will reduce in your mind, okay? And when you feel, because you know, when you practice, when you have spiritual practice, you fall in love with yourself more, because you start to appreciate that actually it is divinity that has created you. This thing that you call life that is within you is a very special thing. You know, life is a wonder. And when you see it like this, you actually don't want to harm the body. You don't, because the body is a temple, right? So naturally, you know, the idea will come that maybe I don't want to do this, maybe I don't want to do this, it's not that attractive for me anymore. And combining that with willpower, you can say that, okay, I'm going to attempt, you know, not doing this anymore, and it becomes easier. It becomes easier, and this way it is actually permanent, because once you have your, you know, initial kind of awakening, then that's it. Consciousness just wants to expand. Then you are just on the direction of becoming better and better and a better version of yourself, right? So if you're noticing changes within you, then this is a sign that you are progressing on the spiritual path, okay? Be it small, doesn't matter. Small things compound into big changes, okay? So that's one. Number two, okay, so number one is having control over your senses, or actually becoming better at having control over your senses, okay? Number two is a true yogi is somebody who is tranquil in all situations, or at least learns how to be, okay? Tranquility is somebody who is just peaceful. They have joy, they have peace, they have love in every single situation. This means, obviously, what is being spoken about here is having complete control over our emotions or our emotional states, right? This is another big one for all of us. You know, imagine living a life where neither you nor the people around you got angry. Wow, that sounds like heaven, and that heaven is possible. That heaven is possible. With spiritual practice, that heaven is possible, okay? So this is, again, one thing that you measure yourself in, right? How, like, are you getting better at controlling your emotions, right? Because ultimately, if you look at it very simply, spiritual practice, like meditation, right? It makes the mind stronger. It makes you able to keep the mind where you want to keep the mind. Not that the mind is taking you in a million different directions. You can, like in meditation, right? You have an object to focus. You focus on your breath. Every time the mind wanders, you come back to the breath. You come back to the breath. Come back to the breath. Train the mind to be where you want it to be, to feel how you want it to feel, right? So naturally, when an unpleasant emotion comes up, like anger or sadness or fear or whatever it may be, you are able to process that and transform it much quicker. And when you get to the enlightened being level, at that point, you know, you are no longer identifying with the body. So at that level, these emotions probably will not even come up, essentially, because you don't identify with the body. You know, there are stories of monks and swamis where, so there's one story of a specific swami in India where somebody came and they were disgusted by him because he was wearing robes and sitting down, and they spat on him. And it is said that the Swami's face, his expression did not change. He was just smiling at this person, because for him, he was just not identified with the body at all. So how could he get angry? It's like, you know, if somebody spits on your t-shirt, like, okay, maybe you'll get angry, but it's not the end of the world, you know? And if you're detached, you may not even get angry, right? So for them, the body is just like a t-shirt. They just don't identify with it at all. So they were able to remain tranquil in any situation, really, in any situation. So for yourself, if you are noticing that, you know, you're getting angry less, right? Or if, let's say, some emotions come up like fear, like anxiety, you're able to snap out of it and bring yourself back to center and get a positive perspective on things. This is a true sign of progress, right? And you can see very clearly from how I explained how meditation will do this, because it's making your mind stronger. It is making It is giving you the power to keep your mind where you want to keep it, essentially. So practice, it's all in the practice. It is all in the practice, okay? So number one, somebody who has total control over their senses, and then control over their emotions. And the last one, number three, this actually is my favorite one, okay? So Lord Krishna says that a true yogi is one who has the welfare of other beings in his heart. Who has the welfare of other beings in his heart. What does this mean? This means that somebody who has got a loving and a compassionate heart. A loving and a compassionate heart. So if you feel that through your practice, you are viewing people differently, you feel compassion, you can feel people's pain, this is a great sign, because ultimately, it is said that until the heart does not open, spiritual progress just cannot happen. It is not a mental ordeal. It's not, this is, love. Love is the language of the universe. Love is the language of your soul, essentially. So the heart needs to expand, and you will notice this happen in you. For me, the first time when I actually felt some changes was when, after doing morning meditation. This is back when I was still working. I would be walking to the office, and it would be the same journey, but things around me, like the trees and the plants that I would see, they just seemed different. They seemed greener. There seemed to be more life in them, or maybe I could feel that wow, nature is such a wonder. It's such a wonder. So two people could be walking on the same street, and one person is stressed out about what's going to happen at work and this and that, and somebody else could be looking at the sky, the clouds, and the nature around him, and saying, wow, what a wonder that I'm here, that I have life on this planet. And when you feel like this, naturally, when you see something else, whether it's a bird or an ant or another human that's in a bit of difficulty, naturally your compassion will just flow toward them. This is something that happens naturally through spiritual practice. You practice, and your heart will open. And this is, I often say to my clients that even when you are practicing meditation, when you are watching the breath, the act of watching the breath will change. Because initially, when you're practicing, you're watching the breath, and you are, you're saying that I need to concentrate. Like you're trying to keep your attention focused on the breath, right? But that can change as well. You start viewing the breath itself as a wonder. You start viewing the breath itself as a wonder, because you think, this is what I think when I get really, really into it, that wow, this breath that is happening, it is happening on its own. I've never had to do anything to breathe, and it's the very thing that is keeping me alive, right? It's the very thing that's keeping me alive. So there must be something, some intelligence, some energy within me that is actually just making this happen. Because without this breath coming in and out, like I'm nothing. Like my entire life is based on this. And you watch the breath with that perspective, you see that actually the breath is divine. The breath is God itself. The breath is divinity itself. And then everything you see around you changes. This is what I was mentioning in yesterday's video, that all we need to do is change the lens. You change the lens with which you view everything, and everything changes. And this is not something that you can do mentally. You can't say, oh, from today I'm going to change the lens. You practice. It's just the practice. The practice does everything. Okay, so that is it. The three qualities of a true yogi, or the three signs of progress on the spiritual path, are number one, that you are getting better control over your senses. Number two, you're getting better control over your emotions. And number three, your heart is expanding. There is more compassion, more love, more wonder developing within you. So these are 3 signs essentially of progress on the spiritual path. That is it for today. I really hope that helped. Thank you very much for listening. Namaste.